Now, what are you working on right here? This
is the full texture map for the Manicore. And I'm making a...
All right, so you can see part of his face.
There's his face, there's his torso, there's his wing, his arm and his leg, the stinger tail.
So you have to you actually draw each of these pieces individually?
I draw them on one separate map.
Right.
One map, and then take it apart. Two different pieces, like this is the body, there's the head, there's the leg, and then put each piece on the actual model itself.
Oh, cool.
So,
and then
it gets exported.
Then Belvedere does the animation.
Right.
All right. So he actually takes this design, puts in the engine, and makes sure all the pieces and functions. Do you actually design movement for these monsters?
No, but we do have input with. I mean, he talks to us all the time. Everett does about what the movement is.
Oh,
yeah,
all right.
Yeah, this guy is supposed to walk like a big cat. He's supposed to act like he's pouncing towards the prey.
All right.
He has a large tail, so he needs to wave it around whenever he idles. Things like that. So he takes that into consideration, which is kind of nice.
Well, speaking of art, since you're one of the original artists of Wolfpack, it was you and Billy.
Yeah.
And Everett came on, right? And a lot of the fans out there are wannabe artists. I mean, some people do comics and so forth.
Right.
Take me through your process. I'm like, if you say, okay, all right, Ashton, we want you to do a desert. How would you first go about formulating that in your own head and then actually putting that into steps?
Well, you first always start with the concept.
Right.
And if it's something for as generic as a desert, it would be sort of a mood piece. If the desert is kind of stormy, or if it's nice and bright.
Right.
What texture is the desert? What texture is the...
So you're visualizing and you plan it out, and then do you actually use paper? Do you draw it out? Or do you
everyone keeps a sketchbook.
Yeah, let's see your sketchbook. All right, you showed that to me yesterday.
Yeah, I think so. Let's see, the Manicore sketch is around somewhere.
So, because like Chewy was telling me that he'd never use sketches.
Well, that's the thing. It's different for each person. Like, there's the Iroquois Temple.
Okay, hold on. All right. That's cool looking.
Okay, and then the final piece is... Let's see. It'd be Iroquois...
Kind of get an overview look at that. So what programs do you use? Are you pretty
fluent in Photoshop and 3D Studio Max?
3D Studio Max. Do you have a preference?
Or
do you use both?
Use both, just equal. Okay. I came from a 2D background, so I like to sketch, but primarily, and I think Chewy goes more for straight 3D, so that's why he doesn't go with a
right. So this is a look at. Let me zoom in on that.
So you can see it doesn't vary too much.
No, it's very, very similar.
So you keep that in mind, because the sketch is what you have to first do so you can get it approved by the people that matter.
So you do the sketch, and then what do you take? You take it to the lead designer?
Take it to lead design it, yeah, Scorn, or even Warden, or Arcane.
This is kind of how it fits into the original vision of Shadowbane,
exactly
what they're planning on. Okay.
My favorite person to take it to is Meridian, because how does this
fit into the lore and history?
Because he really helps out in fleshing everything out, especially for all the races.
So let me ask some back question, because it's been probably a while since anyone's interviewed you.
Yeah.
Especially for the new fans. How did you get part of Shadowbane? I mean, how did you get in contact with the founders and be hired?
I was actually demoing another game called Shadowpact.
Okay. Where at E3?
Yeah, at E3. And the demo was...
Is that Thomas? There's Thomas. Get a little screenshot of Thomas.
Hello?
Try playing.
The E3, that E3, they were friends, Arcane and Warden, and actually Patrick, I forgot his name.
Arias,
yes. He hasn't used that in a while.
Yes.
They were friends of my bosses at Murder Crows, which made Shadowpact.
Okay.
So they were like, wow, we like your art. We wish we could hire you, but we're friends with these guys. Well, a month later, Murder Crows folded.
This is what, 1999?
Yeah, I think so. 1999. it folded a month later, and I immediately called them like the next day. And at that point, they had a functioning engine in Direct 3D, and they had guys walking around with motion capture already in place.
So did they have the mocap system we have now then?
No, they just grabbed some mocap,
Okay.
Stock footage type of stuff. And at that point, it was a functioning engine.
Right.
It was pretty nice actually. So, and then they converted to OpenGL about 2 or 3 months later. So
this is when you were still Carnage, just waiting for the Shadowbane.
In fact, actually, I still have the notes of the original names that we were thinking for Shadowbane. In fact,
what kind of names did you have? If you can remember back that far.
They're in a sketchbook somewhere.
Do you remember a couple of them?
Fallen Isles.
Fallen Isles, interesting.
Fallen Isles.
Well, do you remember what their mud was called? Carnage mud, or was it Chaos mud?
It was called Chaos mud, but that was before my time.
Okay.
Actually.
Were you a mud player at all before you got involved in games?
I did. I got into Gemstone 3 and Dragon Hills. That was about it. I tried playing UO during the beta, and the lag was so horrible, I quit it after a day.
Have you played any mode since you've been with Shadowbane?
I played EQ for a week, and I thought it was kind of boring, so I didn't keep up with that. Here you go. Dark Shard, Rune Shade, Ashen Isles, Rune Storm, Bloodwind, Fading Isles, Shadow Flame, Shadow Shards. The list goes on.
Interesting. So Shadowbane.
Lords of Dusk.
Lords of Dusk. I guess this was a brainstorming session, right?
Pretty much, yeah. They just threw out all the ideas.
Now I go a little bit back for because we know we have a lot of art fans in the fan base and the forums, and they always, one of the frequent questions we get is, hey, I am a wannabe artist. Now I think I have some talent. I think I have some ability. What advice would you give to some of our fans or anyone else who wants to maybe pursue art or animation? Yeah. I mean, how did you get into the business, or what steps did you take? Did you actually go to
I went to art school, but that wasn't necessary. You really need to learn the tools.
Okay.
And if you're learning the tools and you make 3D model characters from that,
right,
and it's good stuff, people will recognize you. Right. So the first thing you need to do is get a good background in 2D figure drawing. Okay. This is a classical approach. 2D figure drawing will just serve you for life.
Right.
Any type of figure drawing of animals, of humans, anything living really, really helps. And then from there you can go to 3D.
What about coloring? I mean, animation is one thing, but I mean, I'm assuming that's part of it, right?
Coloring is very important. What type of color sets what type of mood, how saturated certain colors need to be in order to convey this certain mood,
I'm assuming lighting also.
Exactly. Stuff like that. That also really helps. But
this is the classical approach where you go 2D drawing, sketching, then into the technology software, whatever's popular.
Right.
Are there any other approach? That's the approach you use, I'm assuming.
Pretty much, and then you have to make a demo. You really need a demo. If you don't have a demo, most people don't look at it.
Okay, what is a demo? Is demo just a stereoscope portfolio, or is it an actual program?
No, it's actually demos on VHS or CD, and at the most, it should have 2 minutes of models, characters, sketches, things like that. If they're moving, that's great, but I didn't have any animation experience prior to this, so you don't necessarily need that. That's something extra.
Okay.
This company is different because you do a lot of different things, but most companies, you're kind of fit into one specific spot. I would be doing nothing but buildings at any other company.
Right.
But here I'll be doing monsters, interface, buildings, particles.
You designed the original interface for Shadowbane.
Right.
Okay. Have you worked on any other ones, or have plans to work on any other ones?
I did interface work for Shadowpact. And you mean interface
Shadowbane?
Oh yeah. I plan on doing one for each race.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Right on. So also I guess it was E3 2001, or was it 2000 when you hired Chewy?
2001.
It was 2001.
Yeah.
So here's a guy that's a fan.
He was a fan.
And he had done some flash animations, I think, and some 2D sketches. And I remember from the story that I understand is that you guys took a look at him and said he's not ready yet.
Yeah.
Work on these things. And
I saw his stuff. Yeah, I saw his stuff and thought his 2D stuff was really kind of neat, and his 3D stuff just wasn't there at all. but you could tell that he had certain potential. And the difference was he decided to spend a year working on that potential.
Right.
Most people would shrug off whatever we said and said, well, okay, I don't have the potential, I'll just not do it. But he actually spent a year doing nothing but 3D stuff, and really, wowed us on the second time.
And then have you been primarily working with him since then? Because I've seen his armor and stuff is really good.
Yeah, it's really good. No, he's pretty independent. I mean, he flip-flops as much. He likes doing a lot of monsters.
Okay.
So him and Billy are the monster kings.
Right.
And so, but he likes doing the armors too. And he's done a lot of the particles, so.
Cool.
He's been doing a lot of range of stuff.
Is there anything you would like to work on with Shadowbane? I mean, you're doing buildings and stuff right now, mostly finishing the work. But there some things that you would like to personally do or see for the game later on?
Well, I'd like to start working on the Asian world. That'd be kind of neat.
So you like the Middle Eastern type of culture?
Like the Middle Eastern type of culture. I also like Asian type of culture. It'd be nice for some type of expansion to focus on certain different cultures.
That's interesting. That brings me to a question. Do we have a race in the game that would be more Asian mindset, or would we create a new one for that?
We'd probably create a new one. It's pretty easy to do that, so it's not a big deal. Especially if it's just another bipedal, based like all our other ones, except for the centaurs were a pain in the butt because they were four-legged and stuff too.
And some of the buildings had some special needs for those, like the ramps and so forth.
Right.
I mean, obviously,
all
they
the
shop and buy food.
It's really interesting, the brainstorming on trying to figure out what a centaur would actually build a building for.
That is.
Because they can't walk upstairs. Everything has to be at least waist high. They can't bend down, nor do they want to. In fact, they can't even sleep that much. I mean, if they sleep you can't sleep in a prone position. You sleep kneeling up.
Right.
And so their sleeping beds are just a bunch of straw hay with a little bit of a rest for their upper half.
Right.
And it looks really weird. It's not like a normal bed at all.
Now, that's something I never really considered before.
Right.
So I'm assuming that brings me to another topic, subject about art, I guess, is like when you're doing the buildings, you got to think a little bit in architecture, I guess, too, to keep it in fantasy. So it can't be just, not only that, but keeping the functionality of players going in and out and using it. So
have to give a lot of space. Have to give a lot of space for people because you're going to have hundreds of people walking in and out of this building theoretically. You don't know how many people are going to be in a certain forge at a certain time. So you have to keep a little bit of open space involved so people don't bump into each other or get annoying to other people.
So it's kind of hard. Who does for desert zones, I'm assuming that's hills, painting colors, for example, but what about just your everyday terrain, your trees and grasslands?
Yeah, that's most of that was done by Solphage.
We'll get him next too.
Yeah, so he does really good swamps, forests, grasslands, things like that.
And now the mist, for example, desert, you have snow, you have the sandstorms. That's something you also keep in mind, or is that more Olaf, or is that more?
No, actually, that's all us.
Oh,
too.
good.
So Olaf did the technology for us,
so
then we just used it.
In the little sand tornadoes, do we have that?
Sand tornadoes?
Right.
No, but we could.
I know we have sandstorms; they kind of billow out, and you see them.
In fact, actually, that's a good idea. We had a sandstorm monster, but if we didn't have them as monster class and just as an environmental effect, that's a good idea.
Woohoo!